Applying operations management principles at ACIT. The first principle I will examine is layout strategy. What is the current approach utilized? ACIT uses the office layout as opposed to retail layout. However, its student-run restaurant is located right near the main entrance, which allows for the community to come and purchase food. One example is that the local police stop in for breakfast takeout. The restaurant is set up for retail because customers must walk all the way to the back area through seating, which is set up to face out through windows into the lobby. This is called a primary location best practice. The classrooms are random throughout the campus, but the shop classes that include automotive repair are at a fixed position strategy located next to the road, so the cars can be brought in for repairs by students. The automotive shop is an example of a work cell, which is the best practice for eliminating waste, which can be classified as time, and creating higher levels of manufacturing efficiency. Work cells save space, cut inventory, and make work more interesting. When considering the layout of any classroom, almost all are filled with single freestanding desks placed in rows facing the front of the room. Students see the back of the room as a place to not engage in learning. Give a recommendation on how the company could enhance their approach. ACIT is fortunate that it has been able to add onto existing buildings, but the overall flow of the whole campus is negative because some students have to walk outside across campus to another building, even in rain and snow. ACIT's expansion grant will create new construction that should minimize most of this. Give a recommendation on how the company could reduce costs. If teachers would place all the desks in either a giant circle or square facing inward towards the center of the room, every student would have a front row seat and be fully engaged in the lesson. This cuts down on behavior issues and therefore improves graduation rates, saving cost when students don't have to be retained for failing. Empowering students by allowing them to select their own seats, which is a lean strategy used in knowledge-based workplaces. Layout design must in all cases achieve a higher utilization of space, equipment, and people, improve flow of information, materials, and people, and improve employee-student morale, and create safer working conditions. Next, I will consider human resources and job design. What is the current approach utilized at AC Tech? The current approach used by ACIT is a 10-month school year with summer break as well as holiday breaks for 10-month staff who are paid a full year's wages over 10 months. Everyone follows an 8-hour day, 5 days a week. The teaching staff are members of the labor union NJEA, which negotiated a salary guide and contract that includes motivation and incentives like personal days and sick time. Job design identifies the tasks of a specific job category for either an individual or group. Job design includes a job specialization, job expansion, psychological components, self-directed teams, and motivation incentive systems. Job design includes job specialization between teachers, maintenance staff, office staff, and food service workers. Bus drivers have a different schedule that includes breaks between picking up students. Job expansion occurred when teachers were assigned to observe and collect data on student mental health after returning from the pandemic, which considers psychological aspects of each job and includes self-directed teams for vocational trades, science and math, history and language arts. Give a recommendation on how the company could enhance their approach. ACIT could negotiate with the NJEA a 4-day, 10-hour work schedule. That would mean lower heating and cooling costs because 1 day less would be needed to use energy. Savings on gas for school buses would also be an incentive as buses would run 4 days instead of 5. Give a recommendation for how the company could reduce costs. Starting the school day an hour later for high school students has been shown to be a positive factor on student health. This also would entail starting everyone at the school later as well. For example, a 9 a.m. start and 4 p.m. finish would create that extra time in the morning, and having a later start would reduce the amount of late to work by staff and students, reducing or eliminating the paperwork needed to record the data. The third category I will consider is supply chain management. What is the current approach utilized? Public schools in New Jersey, which rely on public funding and transparency, use many suppliers that naturally allow for competition among vendors to obtain the lowest possible costs. Heiser et al., 2020. A key aspect of this strategy is that school districts put out a public request for quotes that further guarantees that the public gets the lowest cost vendor over possible favoritism, where a purchasing agent picks companies that may be known to them personally and may end up costing the district more because it was done without having to compete on the open market. This is the best practice strategy available because it puts all the cost of doing business onto the vendors and is never incurred by the school districts. This strategy can be seen in all areas of the school district's purchasing, including general supplies, food services, and even busing services. Give a recommendation on how the company could enhance their approach. The supply chain's strategic importance cannot be overstated. Companies and organizations do not compete against each other, they compete against supply chains. Because costs are directly relational to purchasing invoices, ACIT must analyze its strategies for supply chain. There are 6 supply chain strategies that ACIT can use. Many suppliers, few suppliers, vertical integration, joint ventures, and Keiretsu networks and virtual companies. The best practice for AC Tech would be to use many suppliers for most of its orders, and also few suppliers for any specific merchandise or service program that meets a key need where cost may not ultimately be a factor because the service has value that adds quality, which is also considered a lean strategy. Give a recommendation for how the company could reduce costs. ACIT can use few suppliers for all of its purchasing needs because they would be able to negotiate stronger contracts with better quality because ACIT can manage them better. Many suppliers won't necessarily guarantee lower costs, however, this strategy could reduce costs. The fourth principle to consider is inventory management. What is the current approach utilized? ACIT uses economic order quantity. The EOQ model is most commonly used and considers 6 factors. First, demand is known, independent of other decisions, and reasonably constant. Next, lead time is known and consistent. Third, inventory from an order arrives all together at the same time. Next, quantity discounts are not available. Fifth, only variable costs are setting up or on ordering. And finally, if placed at the right time, all stock is available. Computing reorder point and safety stock includes taking the amount of units needed and deciding when to reorder. This can be affected by delivery times in the months rather than tomorrow. ROP, reorder point, is the inventory level at which an order should be placed. Safety stock, SS, is defined as when the demand during lead time and the lead time itself are not constant and may keep 1 or more days of stock on hand. ACIT follows this model when purchasing any needed inventory, including paper goods, cleaning products, or food inventories to feed almost 2,000 students and staff daily. ACIT holds safety stock for at least a month or more for paper goods, cleaning supplies, and other school supplies. Food inventory is held in walk-in freezers and refrigerators so that a week's worth of food resources are available. Many breakfast foods are packaged dry goods that can be stored for up to a year based on expiration dates on packaging. Given a recommendation on how the company could enhance their approach. The 4 functions of inventory are to provide goods or services for anticipated customer demand and try to separate the organization from any fluctuations in that demand, typically for retail. Another goal is to decouple parts of the production process. ACIT should take advantage of quantity discounts to save on delivery. Finally, having inventory on site is purchased at today's prices and not having inflation costs, which increases prices. Give a recommendation of how the company could reduce costs. ABC analysis includes grouping higher cost supplies, resources separate from medium and lower cost units. The purpose of this strategy is that management costs can be focused on the most expensive inventory because that has greater risk. Cycle counting investigates how much inventory is on site at random times other than once a year audit that has to close down the organization, who might have to hire outside auditors to complete the work. AC managers can be trained instead to complete the cycle counting, and this could eliminate shrinkage of employee theft. And the final principle to be considered is scheduling using lean strategies. What is the current approach utilized? Short-term forward schedules are found at ACIT, which is a service organization. ACIT management must schedule all knowledge workers to arrive prior to students, and bus drivers must report as early as 5 in the morning to accommodate for the pickup of students from all around Atlantic County, since ACIT is a receiving school. In case of a school closure, supervisors must make accurate choices as to whether school should be canceled and notify everyone effectively. Although the first in line during lunch may match up with FCFS, which is first come first served practice, the food service system must be, in the end of each day, a service for each student in line. Food services use all priority rules. FCFS, which is first come first served, jobs done in order they arrive, which is and SPT, which is shortest processing time. Jobs with shortest processing time come first. EDD, earliest due date, assigned first, and LPT, which is longest processing times, are assigned first, because some food is perishable and some is not. Looking at an expiration date can assist in forward thinking, forward scheduling, how many days are left to serve that inventory. Sequencing that includes using priority rules to schedule work by time so that buses go first. No matter how many directions are given to use key drop-off areas, some people still block buses, which are running on priority schedules. Bottlenecking occurs when parents are trying to drop off their students at the same time as school buses. Give a recommendation on how the company could enhance this approach. Employee empowerment scheduling tries to allow employees to have as much flexible schedule as possible. This kind of schedule must still cover the timing of operations at ACIT, which begins priority to student and staff arrival in the food service department, where the efficient manufacturing of pre-processed foods needs to be ready for breakfast before school, 4 lunches in a day to accommodate almost 1,500 students, and also the scheduling of maintenance staff who need to be at work in an empty building to accomplish their tasks, which means they must work evenings and overnight. 2 critical goals are met with successful scheduling. First, internally effective scheduling means faster movement of goods and services through a facility and greater use of assets that result in a greater capacity per dollar invested, which means lower cost. Next, generally good scheduling provides faster throughput, added flexibility, more dependable delivery, and improved customer service. Give a recommendation on how the company would reduce costs. Convert the personal and sick days given by the state each year into flex time, where teachers could take hours instead of whole days, which decreases the amount of full-day substitute teachers needed. Have already in place substitute teachers hired by the school district rather than more costly agencies that charge a service fee.